It's called artificial fire. It's an explosive chemical cocktail that can ignite the whole sky with color. What goes on inside a firework? How can 1,000 shells burst in perfect time to music? And why do we love to look at them so much that our brain cells dance with pleasure? Get ready to see fireworks in a way you've never seen them before, millisecond by millisecond. Strapped to someone's back, driving a human brain into a frenzy. And a fireworks show so intense, they shoot it in the daytime. The ultimate guide to fireworks is about to have a blast, blowing the world of pyrotechnics inside out. Fireworks can rock you, or they can put you in a trance. It's all about sensory overload, and that can cost big bucks. Some shows burn through $500,000 in just half an hour. But who cares? On July 4th, Americans claimed their inalienable right to see the rocket's red glare. In Ojai, California, the celebrations have hardly changed for the past 50 years. The day is for the standard street parade. But the day is all about what happens at night. Fireworks. Tonight, the sky will fill with almost 1,000 incendiary devices in complex, glorious acts of pyromania.
This is where all loose threes that we didn't have.
It takes a dedicated crew of pyrotechnicians one whole day to make sure everyone gets enough oohs and ahs.
For being small town as we are now, this is something special for them. This makes it the day of happiness. This is their show.
Stern Ingram, a professional pyrotechnic operator, is a veteran of Ojai's annual celebration.
Well, the idea is to get fireworks in the air, and what we try to have is something going off all the time. Now, naturally, there'll be a few lulls, but you don't want breaks. We'll run 20, 25 minutes, something like that.
The fireworks won't just be painting the sky. They'll be lighting up the ground, too.
This is a set piece in between shooting the fireworks. We'll stop and light one of these and let it burn out and then start again.
Rigged incorrectly, these fireworks could cause devastation. That's because there's over a ton of explosive material in this field. And for this show, the crew will be directly in the firing line.
You got rope ready? So they're going to light this one right over there?
Probably the one in the front.
At this show, these people like to hand fire them. In other words, they have a fusee or a lighter, and they light each fuse manually.
A hand-fired show is a rarity in these days of computer-controlled fireworks. It's all part of the Ojai tradition.
There's an adrenaline rush that goes with this that is unlike any other adrenaline rush out there. You can drive a motorcycle on the freeway at 190 miles an hour. You can do all kinds of things to have an adrenaline rush. This is unlike any of those.
Tonight, 15,000 spectators will experience a glorious spike of adrenaline if the finale goes as planned.
This will probably go up in about 35 seconds. Maybe less. You're looking at, just in 3-inch shells, you've got over 300 rounds. We've got, I believe there's a 4-inch there. There's a combination, so that's 6 and 5, and then 4 more over here. So you're looking at 300 and change shells in 30 seconds or so.
Amid the smoke and noise of battle, someone's going to have to keep the firing crew on track.
I try to envision what's going to happen, and I try to communicate that to the crew. The only way to do it is yell at them.
Time to set fire to the sky.
First one. Burn some shells, man. Finish that front row. Fountain! No! Fountain! The front row! Oh, you did great fire, man. Hold it! Go, Leonard! Go, John, go! Turn it and burn it! Get rid of it! Go! Light it! Okay, we're done.
The show is a hit with the crowd, if not 100% success for the crew.
It didn't go as well as expected. Just the finale didn't happen the way we had planned. We had some breaks in the fuses and just couldn't catch up to them. So we lost about 60 or 70 shells out of the finale. It just happens. There's nothing we could have done. It just blew.
This faulty fuse meant several dozen fireworks were left sitting in their mortar tubes.
These didn't go off, so we're going to have them soak them in water and render them safe, so they'll no longer be an explosive hazard here.
You've got to treat unexploded fireworks with extreme caution. But that's part of what we love about fireworks, their unpredictability. This night, as on every Independence Night, tens of thousands of fireworks will illuminate the American sky. Over $200 million worth of explosives will burst into light and smoke. What is the timeless lure of these bursts of light, these chest-thumping explosions? Instead of looking upward for the answer, why not look inward to the human brain? In this unique field experiment, a spectator at a fireworks show will be hooked up to a device that monitors his brainwaves. In essence, turning a fireworks show into a psychological laboratory.
People love fireworks not only because of all the stimulation, but from a psychological standpoint, there is what's called controlled fear.
It's well known that fear stimulates the release of adrenaline into the bloodstream.
Once the adrenaline goes throughout our body is bathed in that, our heart rate increases, our pulse rate goes up, we begin to sweat.
Psychologists tell us that this compelling cocktail of fire and fear puts the brain into a state of euphoric stress called eustress that actually feels good. But what really goes on inside the brain has been a mystery until now. Watch as Dr. Michael Nuccitelli and brain scan expert Dr. Carla Hickey begin to watch the neurons fire in their subject's brain.
Well, psychologically, I'm sure he's exhilarated as well as I am. I mean,
stimulated to the fullest. There was a lot of activity going on there.
This revolutionary brain mapping machine can transform streams of electrical data into a visual map of brain activity throughout the fireworks display.
Well, certainly we began to see more of an intensity in the brainwave. The voltage or amplitude of the brainwave spectrum began to really intensify as the fireworks display also intensified.
Here's what a brain looks like watching a dark sky. Here it is watching a few shells burst. And here is the human brain bathed in the sensory pleasure ground of a fireworks finale. Dr. Hickey can map out different frequencies of brain waves as they bounce across the cortex. Here is the alpha, which measures alertness. And this is the beta, which relates to more focused concentration. The most intense activity shows up as patches of red. As the show climaxed, the activity in the subject's brain shifted dramatically toward his frontal lobes. Most telling, though, was a final shift in the beta wave to the frontal right lobe, the part of the brain that responds most in critical emotional situations.
Here it was very specific to right cortex, and the emotional or the affect in viewing the stimuli was particularly significant and as seen through the brainwave activity.
And at that very moment, the subject was blissfully unaware of his surroundings.
I forgot that I was even hooked up. I was just so amazed.
The intense stimulation of the fireworks actually evoked a kind of trance state known as dissociation.
When you look at the topography of the brain, what you see is that there was massive stimulation going on, and this was at the same time that he was dissociating. The individual's brain became completely stimulated, and he became completely absorbed in what was going on at hand, which happens to be the fireworks.
What is this magical psychic substance that has transfixed us for centuries? The story began 1,000 years ago. Two Chinese alchemists were busy trying to create an elixir of life, adding various tonics and powders to a bubbling cauldron. A few moments later, they had a fire on their hands. A catastrophic accident turned into a stroke of cosmic good luck. They had unwittingly created mankind's first explosive, black powder. Mix charcoal, saltpeter, and sulfur and grind to a fine powder. The recipe is still used 1,000 years later inside common firecrackers. Once a fuse burns into a mass of black powder, an incredibly rapid chemical reaction takes place. Saltpeter acts like gasoline to the flammable mixture of sulfur and charcoal. The result is a hot gas under so much pressure that within a few milliseconds, it blows the cardboard tube apart.
No matter where you are in any part of the world, if there is a Chinese New Year celebrations, that is the sound of the firecrackers.
Firecrackers are as much a part of Chinese culture as the Great Wall and Tai Chi.
The firecrackers are used basically is because of the loud noise they have, and they believe the loud noise is able to get rid of the evil spirit.
Today, few modern Chinese believe firecrackers chase away evil spirits, but they're still captivated by their power. What is the chemical magic going on inside a firework? Movie pyrotechnician Thane Morris, his credits include Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars, makes it his business to know. This is an exploding firework filmed at 1,000 frames a second, or 30 times normal speed.
That's a 2.5-inch aerial shell, approximately 1 millisecond. You can see it start to break the shell open. Within 2 more milliseconds, you'll see the shell completely opened up. You can see the stars being fired out of the aerial shell. Expansion of the gases and the heat is what causes the aerial shells to break open and spread the stars around at very high speed.
Balls of fire called stars are captured here as they shoot out at around 300 miles per hour.
This is another 2.5-inch aerial shell. We shot this one in the dark. We get some overexposure at the very beginning, showing the extreme temperatures involved, very hot, 4,000 degrees. As the star burns, you can see the metal material burning off of it. It's aluminum or magnesium that's normally used in stars to create that look.
Thane Morris has to know how to harness the devastating power of fireworks with split-second timing. His job and his life depend on it.
This is a device we make. It's called an SB-20. It's designed for one purpose and one purpose only, to make loud noises. This whole action is taking place in less than 100 milliseconds.
The explosive substances inside fireworks have devastating energy locked away in their chemical makeup.
When you see this thing fire, you see the shock wave coming across the bottom of it. It's actually lifting debris off the ground. As you see in nuclear explosions, when they fire a hydrogen or an atomic bomb, you'll see the same sort of action in a much larger scale.
What makes fireworks so thrilling to watch also makes them dangerous. Only experienced pyrotechnicians should get close. And only one man in the world is crazy enough to try this. Yes, that is a fireproof suit, And that backpack is full of high explosives. John Banks is the lighted man, the bizarre pyrotechnic tradition of a Colorado ski town.
The lighted man actually began in 1936 with my father, and it started with the torchlight parade, and my father joined in that.
But for Claudius Banks, skiing with torches was not enough.
He covered himself with electric lights. Originally they were flashlight bulbs, and they were powered by a large car battery, and he put them on his skis and his poles, and he skied down Howson Hill. Somebody suggested that it probably looked really neat if he strapped on or tied on some Roman candles as he came down, and so he tried that, so he was back to burning holes in his clothes, but everybody enjoyed it so much that it's become basically a tradition here in Steamboat.
And so, while the rest of Steamboat Springs is enjoying Winter Carnival, John Banks is busy donning his explosive payload, ready for the night's performance.
The backpack right now is the most important part of the equipment because it supports the fireworks racks. We refer to them as the rocket tubes, but we don't actually shoot rockets, we shoot Roman candles.
Whatever you do, don't try this at home. The slope is filled with daredevils, but soon everyone will make way for the entrance of the one, the only, the incredible lighted man. This is what happens when you ski down a mountain with 20 pounds of explosive on your back.
Great. Everything worked well. We were pleased.
The lighted man is a glorious pyrotechnical oddball in these days of the atmospheric Big Bang. Almost a throwback to the Middle Ages, where fireworks stayed on the ground. Italian cities often hosted pyrotechnical parades where plaster cast figures spewed fire from their eyes and mouths. Some of the direct descendants of those medieval pyrotechnicians are now based here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Rozzie's Famous Fireworks has been making sky fire for over 100 years. The Rozzies are a fireworks dynasty. While some companies talk about business being explosive, for the Rozzies, that's no exaggeration. Art Rozzie manages the plant, but his 80-year-old father, Joe Sr., still works an 8-hour shift, 5 days a week. Joe Sr. is a living link to centuries of pyrotechnical tradition.
My father told me how not to do things. It gets in you. You know the right way and the wrong way.
You have to like to do it and do it right as you can, as right as you know how to do it. So my father taught us. My father's very good at it. He was excellent at it. So he passed that on to us.
The Rozzie factory may look ramshackle, but appearances can deceive. They're constantly on guard against their number one enemy, static electricity. One tiny spark can spell catastrophe, so each building's armed with a grounding plate to keep the dreaded spark at bay. These flimsy shacks are actually built to fall apart in an explosion, reducing injury from the concussion of a blast. And spaced far apart to prevent fire from spreading. The basic ingredient of all fireworks is a ball of fire called the star. At the Rozzies, they're made in the old-fashioned way. That means by hand. First, you mix the chemicals together and press them into shape. Then add a coat of priming mixture to make sure they catch fire as they hurtle through the air at hundreds of miles an hour. Of course, to have the proper effect, you've got to do more than make stars. You've got to launch them into the air. This is the beginning of an aerial shell, the most common pyrotechnic device today, packed with stars and a bursting charge of black powder designed to be fired from a mortar tube. A packet of black powder, the lift charge, is taped to the bottom of the shell. When it lights, a violent explosion fires the shell into the air at around 400 feet per second. Then a second fuse ignites the core of the firework. That blows the shell wide open, sending glowing stars in all directions. This classic floral pattern, invented in Japan, is called the chrysanthemum, but there are dozens of variations. Want to know how they make them? Here's the Ultimate Guide's ultimate list of pyrotechnic devices. Take a chrysanthemum and replace the stars with a slow-burning variety, and you get this, the weeping willow. Take a tube full of stars and fire them one at a time into the air, and you have a Roman candle. Add sodium salicylate to stars, and the resulting hot gases create a warbling, whistling sound. Fill a firework with magnesium or aluminum dust, and the result is this. Arrange the stars just right inside the shell, and you can draw shapes with fire. The most complex of all shells is an Italian classic, the multi-break.
Multi-break, yeah. We used to make a lot of them years ago, 3-break, 4-break, 5-break, 6-break. It's so much work. If you made them right, it took so much work to make them, You had to follow on one break at a time.
But they're still made in limited quantities. This is really 3 or 4 fireworks in one. The cylinder is divided into layers of stars, each with its own bursting charge of black powder. Between the layers are timed fuses called spoulettes that create pauses between the explosion of each layer.
After we finally set that spoulette to the correct height, it's then ready to be spiked.
Spiking, wrapping the shell in string, keeps the contents tightly bound to maximize the explosive burst.
And now we have to spike it again.
Each shell is a work of art, a painstaking work of art.
You wind this up just like you're winding up a barber pole, and I go on up to the top of the shell, making little squares like that till I finish off at the top.
In a typical multi-break shell, the bottom layer of stars breaks first. What's left of the shell keeps on going until the spoulette burns through to layer 2. Finally, a charge of aluminum dust caps off the sequence with a bright flash and a deafening kaboom. Shoot just a few multi-break shells and you'll fill a whole sky with fire. Fireworks families like the Rossis have built their empire on chemical secrets passed down through the generations. These recipes for explosive magic are still kept under lock and key. But times are changing. Now folks are figuring out the arcane formulas for creating color. You make red by doping the explosive mix with strontium ions. Green? One word, barium. Blue is the calling card of copper. To stay ahead of the curve, the Rossis have accelerated their expertise from chemistry to choreography.
50 years ago, you used to shoot aerial shells one at a time. Now you shoot a lot of them electronically. Before, people had to be satisfied with waiting for that one shell to go up and go up. Now you don't have to wait any longer. They get them up there fast.
A typical show now calls for thousands of aerial shells bursting in time to music. Thank goodness for computers. Forget black powder fuses. Now they use electrical wires. When hot with current, a small strip of wire inside the lift charge rockets the firework skyward. Each firework is numbered and electrically linked to a switching box. This in turn is connected to a computer that can fire any firework at any time, or dozens at one time. Each Labor Day, the Rossis toast Cincinnati, their hometown, with Riverfest, a fully electronic, fully choreographed musical show that burns through 8,000 shells in 30 minutes.
We like to knock the audience off their feet also, but you don't want to do it the whole show. You want to show them some beauty. You want to show them, you want them to think about an individual shell, and then you want to rock them.
But Art Rossi wants to make these shows even more spectacular, to bring fireworks and music into perfect harmony. So he's dragging the Rossis headlong into the future. This is a standard time fuse that sits inside an aerial shell. And this is the magic fire chip. This techno wonder makes sure that each firework detonates at exactly the right millisecond. Normally, a black powder fuse starts burning the moment a firework launches from its mortar. It blows the shell apart after 4 or 5 seconds. A magic fire chip programmed to light the burst charge after 5 seconds will light it after precisely 5 seconds.
Theoretically, you can shoot something in the sky exactly where you want it, the exact effect you want it, at the exact time.
So today, the Rossis are planning a full-scale show to test Magic Fire's precision choreography. Art's younger brother Joe keeps the rigging crew from crossing their wires.
It's all the control cable that'll run data and power out to the firing sites. These are the main controllers that interpret the data coming in from the laptop that basically tell the system out in the field what to do and when.
For Art Rossi, the work began several days ago, when he began to choreograph the show to a fireworks standard, the William Tell Overture.
Right after the intro, there's a loud percussive piece that we're going to use big salutes to augment it. Well, we're going to hit these percussion with salutes with the Magic Fire technology.
Art is saving the toughest test of Magic Fire for last, a series of over 50 shells timed to musical beats.
Generally, on a traditional show, the finale, you just light it and let it go. Now, this is just a little different. We're trying this technology, and it's developing technology.
With over 400 microchip-controlled shells, it's going to be one of the most high-tech firework displays in history.
It's very tightly choreographed. We have about 400 shells here that will fire in 3.5 minutes, which up until the introduction of the chip technology was fairly impossible. You shoot 3 shells from 3 different places, and they may break kind of scattered. To us, we see 3 shells break together. It's a wow moment.
Great fireworks shows are more than the sum of their parts. Will technology inspire pyrotechnic rhapsody?
Everything fired wonderfully. The colors were vivid. It was a nice, cool, crisp night. Colors came out perfect. Magic Fire worked perfect. You could tell all shells firing from 3 locations all broke at the same time. There was no boom, boom, boom. It was boom, all together.
Fireworks have come a long, long way in 1,000 years. From the days of light a fuse and run like mad, we've progressed to computer-controlled carnivals of fire. But one firework hasn't changed a bit. The rocket. The rocket is basically a firecracker with a hole in it. The hot gases formed by the burning black powder escape in a powerful downward jet that sends the rocket soaring skyward. Rockets were the most popular form of firework for many centuries, but they were also the most dangerous, since they tended to fly every which way after they took off. And when that happens, the results can be, well, you can imagine.
People like fireworks because it is inherently dangerous.
Thane Morris makes a living by making fireworks seem dangerous while really making them incredibly safe. When he isn't on a movie set, he makes pyro devices for up-close and personal pyro shows worldwide, like this one at Treasure Island in Las Vegas. And he's often asked to do crazy things like, say, fire devices directly at an audience. His credo is simple.
Keep escalating the fireworks until you can see 1/2 inch of daylight into the seat of most of the audience, and then you immediately stop. Okay.
Fortunately, Morris knows the difference between scaring people and setting them on fire.
This will be a good test to see if the product's holding up over the years here. Yeah, that one was 25 feet plus or minus 5, so it fell into spec. It's 30 feet.
Another Morris motto: test, test again, and then, to be sure, test some more. At the secluded proving ground of his company, MP Associates, only the limbs of a few trees are at risk.
We try to make our product so that it's 99.999 accurate. And if we say that it's going to go 20 feet plus or minus 5 feet, you can pretty well figure it's going to go 15 to 25 feet and go out. Looking good, Joel.
To get that type of predictability, 10% of the production run is pulled for quality control. And when the testing is done, it's time to take the show on the road. It's rodeo time. To Thane Morris, that means his yearly precision pyro show in the grand old Houston Astrodome.
It's quite challenging to rig in that building because of that great dome that they've got on the top of it, and there's really no place to drop or hang the pyrotechnics.
That means lots of wires for Morris's point man, Jeffrey Marsh.
To hit all these positions in this arena, I have close to 45,000 feet of cable. Almost 8 miles of wiring involved to go back to a single point where this show is fired from.
To make their lives a little easier, the pyro guys have hijacked the stage manager's lighting truss. There are also dangling devices on 150-foot long cables below the dome.
In the dome for this show, we're using about 450 devices. They're scattered throughout this inner truss, the outer truss, and devices hung in the ceiling.
They have to create a show with a 360-degree audience view, timed to the national anthem for the opening of the rodeo.
Well, this is a 1/4 by 35 gerb. It shoots 1/4 second, 35 feet, and I have them on a down position and also an up position around this truss. And just directly below it, I have a flame projector. It's our standard red flame projector that we use in an indoor arena.
In an indoor pyro show with an audience nearby, you have to learn to think small.
Imagine an aerial burst up in the sky, the big fireworks. Well, this is the indoor version, if you will. It's sized down to fit the proportions of the stadium. It's also built by MP Associates, and it's fairly clean device. We try to cut down on the smoke in here. Smoke is a big problem in an indoor arena.
And there's an extra challenge for this indoor show.
You're dealing with horses who are inherently afraid of fire and smoke. You're dealing with cowboys who are, by the nature of the beast, a cowboy. So it's sometimes quite challenging to do that.
This year, the Catalina Cowgirls are getting into the act, running their own small pyrotechnic devices on horseback.
Okay, Dale, let's go ahead and fly this rig up.
Okay, to fly? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Brian, get to go up.
10-4, going up. Status. So, Dale, we just completed the status check. How do we look?
We're ready for show, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
Cue the horses. Cue the fireworks. For the crew, it's time to tidy up and get to work for the next night's audience.
If you're going to do a big show, it'll take you up to a week to set it up. It might last a minute if you're lucky, but you're really jerking the adrenaline glands on the whole audience in that minute, and that's why it's worth it.
They say where there's smoke, there's fire. What about fire but no smoke? That's the bright idea behind this upstart's scheme to clean up fireworks. People get into pyrotechnics for all kinds of reasons. Darren No did it because he was trying to make nuclear weapons a little safer.
For the last 4 years, I've been working at Los Alamos National Labs as an explosives chemist.
No can't talk about what he really did there.
That's the kind of things I'm trying to avoid.
But suffice to say that he stumbled across some chemicals that burned with very nice colors and almost no smoke, and decided to try to replicate them using non-secret formulations. Now, at an abandoned warehouse in the wilds of New Mexico, he's trying to start an indoor fireworks business.
Our strategy for developing our types of indoor fireworks is to develop brighter colors without creating a lot of smoke.
Red line rocket.
When they burn, they tend to be very smoky. We try to avoid using ingredients that create smoke. We use things like nitrocellulose. When that burns, it burns very cleanly.
Green line rocket.
Nitrocellulose is not new. It's been used for over 100 years in bullets. It's called smokeless powder. But there was a major hurdle.